I didn't realize it, but there are more than 2,000 types of palm trees that all produce different kinds of fruit, like dates, coconuts, peaches, and even cherries. But there's one that you have probably never heard of, and it grows tiny baby coconuts in clusters, and once I found that out, I knew I had to find that tree and taste the fruit for myself. So I went to Costa Rica and walked through the jungle for 4 days until I finally came across the tiny coconut palm tree, otherwise known as the coquillo palm tree, and cut one down, prepared to smash them open and taste them myself. Once I trekked through the jungle, and I realized that I was standing in front of the baby coconut palm tree. At first, I actually thought it was the snake fruit tree.
I don't know if this is the snake fruit.
Because it was spiky, a bit rubbery.
I'm scared to touch it.
And I had never seen anything like it in my life. But then when I realized that it was the baby coconuts, I started to get excited.
Oh my god! It's sharp. I can't get it. It's too sharp.
I didn't have gloves, which was probably a mistake because if you get those spikes in your hands, they can act like poison ivy and give you a big red itchy rash. So you gotta be really careful. But if you know me, then you know that I was determined to get these spikes in my hands anyway, just so we could open these baby coconuts and taste them for the very first time.
I don't know how to cut it off without hurting myself.
I did my best. I used my pocket knife to cut it down.
I need a leaf.
I really had no idea how to cut this thing off. I was getting a little bit nervous that I wouldn't be able to take it home with me because I didn't have anything to keep it in. It was so spiky and so sharp. So I was gonna have to find a way to carry it all the way back through the jungle where I came from to my cabin in order to open it without gloves and all those spikes.
Spiky.
So I got to work without even thinking. I ended up finding a leaf that was gonna be my glove because hey, we were in the middle of nature, and if you ask Mother Nature, you shall receive. I put the leaves around the spikes and I did my best to cut it and then yank it off. It was way harder than I initially anticipated because I never realized just how spiky and sharp these things would be. As you can so clearly tell, it took me a while. But nonetheless, I like when things are harder to obtain because then when you actually get them, it feels even more like a win. But anywho, that's okay because we got the prize and I felt like a hunter and gatherer going home to a happy family with my slaughter. Just kidding, we only love animals, we don't schmurder them, but anywho.
There we go.
Immediately, I made my way back through the Costa Rican jungle to go and open this thing.
Haha.
I passed by some amazing exotic plants like this huge orchid, probably the biggest one I had ever seen in my life, and we even passed by a variety of ginger. I was hoping it was the shampoo ginger, but it wasn't. It was just another variety. But after admiring it for a little bit and finding some ducks fighting on the way home, I finally trekked all the way back to my cabin and got ready for the moment that I was waiting for months. Opening this amazing fruit, seeing what was inside, if it really looked like a coconut or not, and tasting it for the very first time. I didn't even know how to start, but I just started yanking these off one by one, trying not to get those spikes in my hands, and it took me, no lie, about an hour and a half to finally have all the baby coconuts off this piece of palm tree. And remember, I held this thing all the way back to my cabin with a leaf, okay? So now was the time to get that outer spiky layer off and reveal the inner coconut goodness inside. I didn't know what to expect because this was the first time that I was ever opening a baby coconut coquillo palm before. But finally, after what felt like literal eternity, I got them to a point where I was ready to smash them open. I got them all off that little palm thing, and then I just had a bunch of balls right in front of me. So I had to get the spikes off. And then once the spikes were off, it was rather easy to kind of just bang them open with a rock on the ground and open them that way. And there were also a lot of bugs that were crawling around because I guess that coconut fruit's really sweet, but I wasn't gonna know until I opened it and tried it myself. One by one, I started cracking them all open. There were at least 40 of them to crack open. But once I did, I was so excited to see, to my surprise, a tiny fruit that looked exactly like a coconut, but just a mini version of them. one by one, I kept opening each one of them to see if any of them looked different inside than a regular coconut. But you can see that all of them had this little oily layer, and that was the oil of a baby coconut. It was so amazing to see how nature can produce such awesome fruit. And in that moment, I wondered why these aren't more commercially available in grocery stores. That's likely due to their limited cultivation outside their native regions and the specialized processing required for the fruits, just as you can see how difficult it is to actually get these fruits. And probably also because the bigger coconuts don't have spikes on them and they're way easier to extract from the trees, so they're easier to bring to the grocery stores. Listen, if I were the head of these departments, that would definitely change. But since I'm not, the only option here is to finally taste this exotic tiny baby coconut and see if it really lives up to the idea I created in my head about what these things would even taste like. And you know what? It tasted exactly like a coconut tastes, and they were so cute too. I just love eating fruits that are cute. And you know what? I really felt that it was worth it to trek through the Costa Rican jungle until I finally came across the baby coconut palm, otherwise known as the coquillo palm. It gave me an appreciation for nature. I guess what I learned now is that palm trees are amazing trees that produce so many different kinds of fruits, and this one that we now know what it is, the one that grows tiny coconuts in clusters, is probably my new favorite.
Oh my God.